Hi, I'm Ed Whitacre, and I work with Panglossian Productions. And we are going to put on for you a staged reading of a new play by Donald E. Baker called Grand Dragon in Power. And this piece is based on the history of a real-life person, D.C. Stephenson, who in the 1920s in Indiana was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. So we chose this piece as part of our Plays in Progress to show new plays, but we thought that this one was particularly relevant in these current times when people are using things like bigotry and fear-mongering and religious extremism and all kinds of extremisms to maintain power and hold on to it. And it doesn't happen in just one enclave. It can happen on either end of whatever continuum of political belief or religious belief that you have. So we thought it was quite relevant for these times, and we hope that the stage reading, even though it's not a full production, we were able to bring it to you in a relatively simple way, but we hope you enjoy it and maybe are a little infuriated about it and look closer at all of our elected officials and our people in power and hold them accountable. So thanks, Don Baker, for writing this piece, and hope you enjoy Grand Dragon in Power.
Dateline, Kokomo, Indiana, July 4th, 1923. Byline, John Niblack, Indianapolis political reporter. Independence Day, 1923 is hot and sticky, as only an Indiana 4th of July can be. But despite the heat, thousands of proud Ku Klux Klansmen and their families have crowded into a sun-drenched Kokomo Park. They swelter under their robes. Behind their masks, sweat poured down their upturned faces as they waited for their beloved Grand Dragon to descend from the heavens. Mr. Stephenson, John Niblack, Indianapolis Times. How about a word for the press before you go on?
Oh, the old man hasn't time for reporters right now, kid, especially ones from the Times. He's late to his own investiture. The Imperial Wizard is here, for God's sake.
It's all right, Earl. What do you want to ask? Niblack, did you say? What sort of name is that?
Scotch-Irish.
Celtic, then. Protestant.
Presbyterian.
Almost as good as Anglo-Saxon.
Don't forget, you and the rest of the press corps signed agreements not to use our new Grand Dragon's real name.
I remember. Mr. Dragon, then. Some Republican politicians worry the Klan may alienate the Negro vote.
I tell my good friends in the party of Lincoln, and you may be sure we have a great many good Republican friends, I tell them they need have no worries on that score. The Klan in Indiana will do nothing to disturb the good, submissive Negro voters. We let our brethren in the solid Democrat South deal with the Negro problem.
You don't believe we in the North have a Negro problem?
Most Hoosiers in the Crossroads hamlets have never seen a Negro outside of a minstrel show. And in the bigger cities like Marion, where the darkies get uppity, they know how to put them in their place.
Swinging from a tree limb on the courthouse screen.
The necessity for such demonstrations is unfortunate, but it's nothing to do with us. Those last comments, of course, are off the record. Now, I do have to get cleaned up and robed. My adoring subjects would await my appearance till kingdom come, but the Imperial Wizard is not so patient. Just listen to my speech, young Niblack, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about the Klan's program and concerns. After the ceremonies, the dignitaries will retire to our headquarters downtown, where we will be available if you have any more questions. Mr. Gentry, Why don't you keep our young friend here company until we're ready to begin with the investiture?
You want a swig? I used to be a bootlegger, and this is good hooch if I do say so.
No thanks.
You got a death wish, kid?
Death wish?
That Mr. Dragon business. A word to the wise. Everybody around Stephenson has a gun, and we're willing to use them when some palooka doesn't show proper respect.
Everybody.
Everybody.
It all seems so silly. The robes, the masks, the secrecy. We all know who Stephenson is, but everybody has to pretend they don't. They just call him Brother Steve, or else the old man, even though he's just in his 30s. He's a coal broker. Coal! He preaches white supremacy, but makes his living selling the blackest stuff on earth.
Weren't coal that got him the big house in Indianapolis, or the fleet of fast cars, or the yacht on Lake Erie. Nope. It was a little piece of every membership fee and every item of regalia bought by all those white supremacists out there.
And what's with the weird names? Kleagles, Clygraps, Cludes, who meet in Clonvacation and Claverns. All those K sounds.
Why do you think this little shindig's being held in Kokomo? Anyhow, what's the difference between the Klan and the Masons or the Oddfellows? They all got secret rituals and passwords, special titles and outfits.
Well, the big difference I can see is the regalia of those other fraternal orders don't include boxes of matches and cans of kerosene. The Klan venerates the cross, but they burn it. I just don't get it.
The way Steve explains it, the cross of fire symbolizes Christ as the light of the world, and purification by fire, and the beacon of truth. A holy trinity of meaning, he says.
I'll give him this. He's a master of stagecraft, flying in low over the crowd like that.
Yeah, he knows how to get the rubes charged up. Stephenson says prophets can't descend from the heavens in a fiery chariot no more. But in this here modern era, a bright, shiny airplane works just as well.
So he considers himself some kind of prophet.
Kid, near as I can tell, he considers himself the whole Old Testament. Moses, Elijah, King David, and Solomon the Wise all rolled into one.
Solomon the king of all he surveyed. The man with 700 wives and 300 concubines.
Well, Steve only had 2 wives so far that I heard him admit to. But he's starting to catch up on the concubines.
I've read up as much as I can find on him. And that's darn little. And I never came across anything about 2 wives.
He don't talk about his past much. Leastwise when he's sober. And surely not with reporters.
Well, he's divorced and drinks too. I thought the Klan was all about sober morality and the sanctity of marriage.
Oh, in public, he toes the line. But in private, rules just don't apply to Stephenson. I best get myself up on the platform. Ceremony's about to start.
It looks like the plane's leaving. He's not flying back to Indianapolis?
Nah, he'll return home in a different fiery chariot. One manufactured by the Packard Corporation. Kid, just watch your step, okay? Oh, and our little conversation? It's off the record too, of course.
There is such a thing as freedom of the press, you know.
You got any idea how many subscribers to your Indianapolis Times or Klan members?
No.
No, you don't. And your editor don't. And your publisher don't. But Stephenson, he knows. You can take that to the bank, kid. He knows.
My worthy subjects, because I love and trust every one of you, I dare to stand before you unmasked. Citizens, of the invisible empire, clansmen all, it grieves me to be late, but the President of the United States detained me, seeking my counsel upon vital matters of state. Fellow clansmen, as I look out over this glorious sea of white, extending as far as the eye can see, I can only pray God will give me the strength and the wisdom to lead onward this army of Christian soldiers. To him I say, thy will be done. It fills me with joy. So many of you brought your wives and children to witness this historic gathering. Our women are the vessels through which we ensure the purity of the white race. That is why God has laid a heavy obligation on white Christian men like us. We must defend our weak and trusting women from smooth-talking deceivers who would lure them in with unclean passion. You, the multitudes that fill this space, you are the invisible empire today made visible. Our enemies will tremble when they consider how many millions more of you are yet hidden from their sight. Speaking of our enemies, I was talking earlier today with a representative from that poor excuse for journalism, the Indianapolis Times, to help their pitiful circulation numbers. That miserable rag has embarked on a crusade against us. You will not read accurate, unbiased stories about us in the Times or in newspapers like it. That is why we have begun publishing our own newspaper. We call it the Fiery Cross, named after that glorious symbol of our movement. There, my friends, is where you will find the truth, there and there alone. Our enemies call us bigots in bed sheets. Look around you, my friends. Do you see bigots? Nor do I. I do not see bigots. I see patriots. I see men willing to do whatever they must to preserve the precious liberties handed down to us by our white Protestant forefathers, liberties which we are duty-bound to pass on to generations yet to come. Today, those liberties are threatened by traitors at our very doorstep. Our Roman Catholic neighbors are plotting to take over this great Protestant nation. They're stockpiling weapons in their church basements. They're turning steeples and belfries into watchtowers and snipers' nests. And they intend to force every one of us to bow down to their foreign pope. Day after day, thousands of Catholic immigrants come pouring in from Ireland, from Poland, from Italy, from places nobody's ever heard of. They're overwhelming us with their alien lawlessness and immorality. From Chicago, that cesspool of sin on Indiana's very doorstep, the Italian bootleggers, Catholics, every one of them from the Pope's own country, those bootleggers are flooding our streets, our state, with liquor. They're defying the prohibitions enshrined in our sacred Constitution. They're poisoning our youth. And what do our politicians do to stop it? Nothing! It is clear, my brothers and sisters, Only the Ku Klux Klan can save us from the evils that beset us on every side. Only the Ku Klux Klan can prevent our country from being stolen away from its rightful inheritors. Fellow Klansmen, our fate is in our own hands. And with the help of Almighty God, those hands will soon clasp in victory from sea to shining sea. Our burning crosses will illuminate every crossroads in the land, guided by those pillars of fire. We will bring our people in triumph through the valley of the shadow. March with me, brothers and sisters. March with me, and I will lead you into a great and glorious future ordained by God Himself. A future that is white, a future that is Protestant, a future that is 100% America! Now, Mr. Niblack, before you ask your questions, let me remind you today's program will continue far into the night. First, our multitudes will march through the city in a magnificent torchlight parade. Then we'll put on the largest pyrotechnic fireworks exhibition ever seen in these parts. And we'll cap it off with lighting a cross 60 feet tall. Tonight, the light of the Klan truths will truly overcome the alien darkness. I hope you will cover every event so that your readers can see how Klansmen enjoy a patriotic American holiday. All we ask is that the Times publish an accurate account.
Sir, I'm sure our readers are already aware the Klan does its best work in the dead of night. But you can always count on the best reporting from the Indianapolis Times.
If only that were so. Now, what would you like to know?
Well, if you'll bear with me, I have several questions. First, do you have a comment on the immense size of today's crowd? Some people are estimating 10,000 people. They say it's the largest Klan rally in history.
There's never been a larger or more enthusiastic aggregation of our people. But I would say the report of only 10,000 is very low. When I was seeing it from the air, it looked to me at least twice that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the actual number were 50,000 or more. No doubt anti-Klan papers like yours will use the lowest number they can get away with.
And what do you think of the Imperial Wizard in Atlanta saw in you that convinced him to elevate you to the exalted position of Grand Dragon in so short a time?
Pure talent. When I joined the Klan only 2 years ago, we had just a few hundred members north of the Ohio River. Then I became King Kleagle, that is, chief recruiter. And as of today, we are organized in all 92 Hoosier counties, at least 250,000 members and still growing by 2,000 every week. When you add in our auxiliaries, the Women of the Klan, the Junior Klan for boys, the Triple K Club for girls, our numbers get up to nearly 500,000. The Imperial Wizard recognized my accomplishments and rewarded them accordingly.
So, let me just get all my other questions out there, and you can take them in whatever order you like. First, what do you actually plan to do with the Catholics, Negroes, and Jews? Kill them? Run them out of the country? Allow them to remain here in some sort of second-class citizenship? Second, what's the ultimate objective of the Klan? Do you aim to take over the national and state governments? Third, it's common knowledge Indiana Secretary of State Ed Jackson plans to run for governor next year. Has he made any deals with the Klan or with you personally to gain support? And finally, how much money do you make out of your Klan activities? Don and Bradstreet say you're worth at least $900,000, but I imagine you'll say that figure is low.
Just stop right there. I see you're part of a national conspiracy against the Klan. Except for that impertinent question about Secretary of State Jackson, a shameful attempt to malign a dedicated public servant. As I say, except for that, I've been asked that very same set of questions at least 30 different times.
Well, I don't know anything about that. I just made up these questions yesterday.
I can also see that you're a bigot.
I'm the bigot.
You're not for us. You are against us. Earl, get him out of here.
Indianapolis Times circulation desk. You wish to cancel your subscription. Certainly, sir, but may we know the reason? You object to our editorials about the Ku Klux Klan? Very well. When would you like us to stop delivery? Immediately. Of course. Thank you for reading the Times. Yes, sir. Never again. I understand. Indianapolis Times circulation desk. You wish to cancel your subscription. Certainly, madam. But may we know the reason? You believe we are not being fair about our reporting on the Ku Klux Klan. You think we should take our paper and go where? Really, madam?
Morning, Eunice. Bad day already?
Mr. Niblack, one more of your anti-Klan stories, and the only thing this newspaper would be good for is kindling at the foot of their crosses. We're down at least 500 subscriptions. And the language they're using over the phone, words they never learned in Sunday school.
Good Sunday school Christians are the bedrock of Klan support. There may be rumors that Stephenson's a drinker and a womanizer. You might hear whispers about wild parties at his mansion still. The church people see him as the great defender of Christ-centered Protestantism. The fireworks show at Kokomo featured the name Steve in flaming letters 20 feet high. They think he was sent by God himself.
What's that you got there?
Oh, latest issue of the Fiery Cross newspaper. They stationed one of their newsboys right outside our front door. You know, there were 200,000 people at that Klan rally in Kokomo.
Your story said 10,000.
Nope. 200,000 says so right here. Also says the crowd gave him the greatest ovation ever given a private citizen in Indiana. On page 3, we find yet another editorial against the Times. And surprise, surprise, the Klan's endorsing Secretary of State Ed Jackson for governor. If Jackson wins, it'll give Stephenson control of the state government and the Republican Party.
Aren't they the same thing? Indianapolis Times circulation desk. Sir, I can't help you if you can't speak rationally. Yes, I know. Jesus plans to send all of us at the Times straight to hell. Frankly, sir, I think he already has.
Oh, and speaking of Christian connection, here's a story about Klansmen visiting a church and leaving an offering on the altar. Happens somewhere almost every week.
A couple of months ago, they showed up where my grandma goes to church. A bunch of them came in right in the middle of service, paraded up and down the aisle in their masks and robes. Total silence. Laid an envelope on the communion table and left. Turned out to be $50. Grandma said a big argument broke out whether they should keep the money, considering the source.
Did they?
Of course. $50 is a lot of money for that little congregation. Besides, their preacher is a member, and the local Klan meets in the church basement. Indianapolis Times office. Oh, he's standing right here.
This is John Niblack. Yes, Mr. Gentry, I remember you. The bruises haven't faded yet. Really? Tell him I'll be right over. Eunice, if I'm not back by tomorrow, I'll file a missing person report. The dragon just invited me to his lair.
Mr. Stephenson, there's a reporter from the Indianapolis Times to see you.
Thank you, Arlene. Send him on in. Good to see you again, Mr. Niblack. Glad you could come over.
That's quite the establishment you have here, Mr. Stephenson.
Oh, don't stand there in front of that window. There's people in the building across the street with high-powered rifles trying to kill me. They might shoot you by mistake.
Have you confirmed there's gunmen over there? It seems unlikely. They're mostly lawyers' offices, Republican lawyers at that.
I'm not taking any chances. Here, come over here and have a seat where we can talk in safety.
Who would want to kill you?
The Imperial Wizard, of course.
What? Just last week, he was singing your praises to the sky.
It had all been organized beforehand, and confronted with the 50,000, more or less, of my ecstatic subjects, he had to go through with it.
The Fiery Cross now puts the numbers of ecstatic subjects at 200,000.
Well, who am I to dispute the reporting of the Fiery Cross? So His Excellency had to make nice in front of 200,000 people, but don't let his crocodile smile fool you. You know how a guy from Dallas who could hardly make a living as a dentist got to be Imperial Wizard and moved to a palace in Atlanta? He staged a coup, deposed his predecessor. He's pretty sure that I want to do the same to him.
So the dentist from Texas is afraid of the coal dealer from Indiana?
He's got his boys out trying to dig up enough dirt on me to get me thrown out. Not just out of my office, but out of the Klan itself. And what they don't find, they'll make up. He's pretty sure, he thinks I don't know what he's up to.
Can he do that? Get you thrown out of the Klan?
Maybe. But if he does, I'll just start my own clan. My loyal Hoosier subjects will follow me, and probably all the other northern realms will too. But he's safe from me if he only knew it. My ambitions go way beyond Atlanta. I plan to become the most important man in the United States.
Really?
Really. Now, John. Can I call you John? And please, call me Steve. All my friends do. I'm afraid in Kokomo we got off on the wrong foot, and I feel bad about that. So just between friends, what do you really want to know about the Klan?
And about you?
About the Klan?
Well, Mr. Stephenson.
Steve.
Mr. Stephenson. What I don't understand is why so many people want to join the Klan. And how you fit in. Sources tell me you're from Oklahoma, or is it Texas? Or maybe Iowa. Anyway, Hoosiers are usually pretty suspicious of strangers coming into state and telling them what to do.
I've experienced nothing but Hoosier hospitality. They've greeted me and my ideas with open arms. To answer your question, at the heart of our movement is a cadre. Cadre. You know, I was in the army in the Great War. Sometimes military expressions just come out of my mouth unbidden. Anyway, a cadre of fierce patriots and believers.
I didn't know you were in the war. As I said, details are hard to come by.
Joined up right after the Jerry sunk the Lusitania. Uncle Sam made me a recruiter. As you can imagine, I was quite successful at it. My only one regret, is that I never went overseas. Never got to help Pershing's boys chase down Kaiser Bill. A lot of guys that did get to see the trenches came back pretty disillusioned. America went over there to save Europe. Now they see Europe coming over here to destroy America. But those former doughboys are still hankering to be part of something bigger than themselves. They cherish American ideals. Under the robe and mask, all men really are created equal.
All white men,
All
that is.
Protestant white men. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. One guy's a farmer, and the guy next to him is the banker that holds his mortgage. We unite them all in a set of common beliefs, and that's a powerful thing. That's why the Klan was created. And under my leadership in Indiana, we've done very well.
These offices certainly speak prosperity. There are 3 secretaries out there and a couple of telephones on every desk.
8 phone lines. and we still can't handle all the business.
A waiting room full of lobbyists and legislators wanting your advice and support, and that phone on your desk. Is that the presidential seal on it?
Direct line to President Harding? Now, John, the real reason I asked you here, how would you like to take over as editor of the Fiery Cross? Now, I know what you're making at the Times. Don't ask. Trust me, I know. And I am prepared to double it. No doubt you'll need to take a little time to think about it.
No, Mr. Stephenson, I don't need any time at all. I won't be accepting your offer. Near as I can tell, the job of Fiery Cross editor amounts to inflating your audience numbers and kissing your ass. No thanks. I'll stay at the Times.
Then I think there's nothing more to say. Good day to you, Mr. Niblack, and of course everything you've heard today is off the record.
As usual. But tell me, is that phone really a direct line to the president?
What do you think?
I think it's as phony as you are.
Arlene, give me the editorial offices of the Fiery Cross. The number is Lincoln 5351. Hello? Yeah, this is the old man. Looks like we've been too easy on the Times. The next issue, I want you to hit them hard. Tell our people any paper that's anti-Klan is anti-American. They must be conspiring with the Pope. Say it's rumored that their owners are Bolsheviks, Jewish Bolsheviks, who want to mongrelize the population. Well, you know the drill, but lay it on thick.
Mr. Stephenson, Secretary of State Jackson has been waiting to see you.
It's about time. Did Niblack see Jackson as he left?
No, sir. I have him sitting in another office.
Good girl. While I'm in conference with Mr. Jackson, I'll leave the intercom on so you can make a record of the conversation.
I understand, sir.
And send Gentry in with him.
Does he have to be here?
I find his presence discourages any misunderstandings.
I don't know why I do your dirty work for you.
Because you want to be the governor, and the road to that office leads through this office. You see Governor McRae?
Yes, but he wouldn't take the money.
Why not? We know he's in debt so bad he's embezzling government money to try and keep afloat. Why shouldn't he accept our generous offer of $10,000 to help his cash flow? All we asked was for him to appoint one of our guys to the Marion County prosecutor vacancy.
When I showed him the cash, he got this look of disgust in his face. He said, "You can just take your money back to your master, Ed. Even if I was willing to hand Stephenson the last shred of my integrity, you're too late. I've already promoted Chief Deputy Prosecutor William Remy to the job."
Integrity? Oh, more likely we just didn't bid high enough. Who's this Remy guy? Can he be bought?
Doubt it. He's really young, and they're usually pretty idealistic when they're young.
Yeah, I know all about that. Once upon a time, I was a socialist. If you're going to survive in this world, you need to learn to shuck the idealism pretty quick.
So I'm finding out. As he's throwing me out, the governor says, "I know you have ambitions to occupy this office, Ed. Too bad you thought you had to sell your soul to get it." I felt humiliated, standing there holding the bribe money.
Oh, stiffen up. You knew if you wanted our support, we'd have to ask a few favors in return. Go on back to your office. I'll call you later if we need you to do anything else.
I know you will.
Ed?
Yes?
Suitcase?
Of course.
Arlene, did you get all that?
Yes, Mr. Stephenson.
Give me the transcript when you get it typed up. It'll go into my special black box file, and then destroy your shorthand notes.
I understand, Mr. Stephenson.
I love this new intercom gadget. Just installed it this morning, and here I already got a record of the Secretary of State admitting he tried to bribe the governor. American ingenuity is a wonderful thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the orchestra and I thank you for the honor of providing music at this elegant event. And we wish also to congratulate Mr. Edward Jackson on his election as the 32nd governor of Indiana. The boys and I will take a break now. We'll be back shortly for your listening and dancing pleasure.
Well, Stephenson, what do you want? Gentry said you wanted to see me. Since the election, most people approach me. They don't summon me into their presence.
The election didn't change a thing between us. Not a thing. And don't you forget it.
You don't need to make a public demonstration of it, that's all.
Let's take a little walk. Somewhere we're not so easily overheard.
Well?
Now that we have you safely elected, despite losing a good percentage of the colored vote.
That was disappointing. First time some of those darkies ever voted against a Republican.
The party of Lincoln is now the party of Stephenson. We're better off without him. Anyway, I also provided you with the best legislature money can buy. I'll send over a list of bills I'd like to see get passed.
I already have a list from Walter Bossett.
That sniveling pissant. The Imperial Texas Tooth Puller may have expelled me from his clan and appointed Bossert in his place, but I still have the upper hand in this state. As well, you know. So, what's on Bossert's list?
Religion and patriotism, what else? He wants to outlaw all parochial schools and require public school teachers to teach the U.S. Constitution and read portions of the King James Bible to their students every day. He also wants to establish a state commission to censor immoral motion pictures.
Good luck to him. Any legislator who votes for that stuff might as well wear his robes to a state house and hold up a sign saying I'm a Klansman. Of course, if any of it does pass, I'll take credit for it.
So what's on your list?
None of that crap. The bill I'm most interested in would reform the State Highway Commission. I want to make the commissioners directly responsible to the governor. That would be you.
And you'd expect me to appoint friends of yours, who would then award road constructions worth millions of dollars to other friends of yours. Friends who might be inclined to let you skim some off the top. Someday, Stephenson, you'll go too far. As powerful as you are, you're not above the law.
Above the law. Where have you been, Jackson? I am the law in Indiana. I own the sheriffs, the prosecutors, the judges. I bought and paid for them with my Klan voters and my Klan money and my Klan poll workers. No Indiana jury would ever convict me of anything because every jury in the state is packed with my people. But even if they did, who has the power to pardon? Well, the governor, that's who. And who owns the governor? Of course, it'd never come to that. You know everything is fine in Indiana politics as long as you don't get caught in bed with a live man or a dead woman.
They may never find you in bed with a dead woman, but they're sure likely to find you in bed with a live one. What do your good Christian supporters do when they find out you've broken every commandment in the book?
They'll follow me into hell if I ask them to, that's what. Besides, I do keep the big commandment.
Really? Which one's that?
Love your enemies. The more enemies you got, the more important you are.
You're supposed to love your enemies as yourself. You don't love anyone that much.
Let's get back before people get too curious about what we're up to. And put on a nice smile so they know we've just been having a friendly conversation.
Well, excuse me, Governor, I'm Madge Oberholzer, one of the hostesses. I wanted to ask if you're enjoying yourself and whether there was anything you needed.
Everything's just fine. Perfect, Miss Oberholzer. Did you know Mr. D.C. Stephenson?
Oh, so happy to meet you, Mr. Stephenson.
And I'm always glad to meet a lovely young lady like you, Miss Oberholzer.
I understand all of your hostess's work at the State House. What office are you in?
The Department of Public Instruction. But I may not be there too long, I guess. We've heard your new budget might cut some of our staff. I hope that isn't true.
Well, Miss Oberholzer, I hope it won't be necessary. But, of course, the state constitution requires a balanced budget. There will undoubtedly have to be sacrifices in some agencies.
Of course, I understand completely.
But I better get back to my table before my wife thinks Mr. Stephenson is holding me hostage. It's been lovely meeting you, Miss Oberholzer. Steve, I assume we'll be speaking in a few days.
Let's make it tomorrow. Miss Oberholzer, since I've been abandoned, would you care to join me?
I guess I could take a few minutes break. The girls at the office will be very jealous. I got to talk to the man responsible for the governor's landslide victory.
I promise not to keep you very long, but I always enjoy feminine company. Now, where did you say that you worked?
The Department of Public Instruction.
Well, Miss Oberholzer, it's possible I may have some influence with the governor. I don't think you're going to have to worry about losing your job.
Thank you, Mr. Stephenson. My parents will be so relieved. They need my paycheck to make ends meet. And please, call me Madge.
And you should call me Steve. All my friends do, and I hope we'll become very good friends. Very good friends indeed. In fact, I feel like I know you already.
I live not far from you, Mr. Steve. You may have seen me with my mother on one of our evening walks around the neighborhood.
Of course. I knew you looked familiar. I'm not a man who ever forgets a pretty face.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. To start off our next set, we'd like to play for you that old favorite, Let Me Call You Sweetheart.
Madge, may I ask you for this dance?
Of course, Steve. I'm honored.
Oh, no. The pleasure will be all mine.
Mr. Stephenson, Madge Oberholzer is on line 1.
Tell her I'm busy.
I did, but she won't take no for an answer.
In the 2 months we've been dating, I've noticed that about her. Madge, what do you want? You're not supposed to call me at the office.
I know, Steve, but I just found out something and I really need to talk to you.
Whatever it is, make it quick.
It's not something we can discuss over the phone. Besides, I want to see your face when I tell you. I'll walk over to your house tonight after supper.
I have a meeting this evening. It may be after 10 o'clock before I get home.
Well, it doesn't matter how late. Just call me when you get in and I'll come right over.
All right, if it's really that important. But for now, goodbye, Madge.
I can't wait to see you. Goodbye, dear.
How many times have I told you not to call me that?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last call for Monon Railroad train number 36, the Midnight Special. Service to Chicago, Illinois via Frankfort, Rensselaer, and Hammond, Indiana, with connections to Monon for points north and south. Last call for train number 36.
Come on, Madge. Try to stay on your feet.
Where are we? What's happening? It's like everything is moving.
Just taking a little train trip. Now get in the berth.
No, I don't want to.
Get in the bunk, you little bitch. I am going to teach you that nobody makes a fool of D.C. Stephenson. Madge. Honey, wake up.
Steve, where are we?
We're in Hammond, honey. We got off the train at Lake County, just like I told you we were going to do.
The train? Oh, God!
I'm so sorry, baby. I know, I treated you horribly. I'm a brute, that's all. But I'll try to make it up to you. Maybe we could get married like you always wanted. Would you like that? What do you say?
Marry you?
You can be Mrs. D.C. Stephenson. And I swear I'll never lay a hand on you in anger again.
Now? You want me to marry you?
We could even do it today if you want.
I have done everything I could think of to get you to marry me. And now...
Gentry's bringing the car up from Indianapolis. We can drive over to the courthouse to Crown Point and we can get married.
Now, after you've ruined me. Oh, but you don't really want to marry me. You just want to save your own skin. You're afraid the world will find out what a beast you are.
No, baby, it's not like that.
Beating up a woman. Biting her like some rabid animal. Even your precious Klansmen and pet politicians would turn their back on you. No self-respecting woman would even speak to you, let alone sleep with you. I need a hat.
A hat?
No lady can be seen in public without a hat. You know that. If somebody saw us, they'd wonder what sort of a woman you're with. Little would they know.
Yeah, sure. When Gentry gets here, I'll have him take you to a millinery shop and get whatever you like. And pick up anything else that you need. Just tell him. I'm sorry, baby. But you'll be okay. Get some rest, comb your hair, put on a little makeup, and you'll be fine. I promise, you'll be fine. Did you see that desk clerk giving me the fisheye when I went to pay the bill?
Of course he did. You checked in the middle of the night with a woman who looked like she'd been through a ringer. He assumed you brought her here for some illicit hanky-panky.
Well, I tipped him enough. He ought to keep his mouth shut if anybody comes snooping around. Car gassed up?
Filled her up when I got into town.
Keep to the speed limit on the way back to Indianapolis. I don't want some cop pulling us over. Wake up, Madge. It's time to go. Come on, baby. Madge?
Boss?
What? Madge, wake up!
Boss, looks like she took some pills.
What the hell? Madge! You foolish girl, what have you done? What did she take?
Bottle says mercury bichloride. Should be 18 pills. Looks like she took 6.
Jesus, Madge, wake up, honey! Where did she get mercury bichloride?
After the hat shop, she said she needed lip rouge. Had me stop at a drugstore. Maybe she got it there.
How would she do that without you seeing her? Earl!
I didn't see a back entrance, so I went out on the sidewalk for a smoke while she was picking out her cosmetics and stuff.
A smoke? You went out for a smoke? You idiot! What if she told the pharmacist to call the cops?
She seemed real calm and cooperative, and she didn't call the cops, did she?
No, she just bought herself a nice little bottle of poison while your back was turned. Madge! Madge, baby, you're gonna be all right. We're gonna take you home, and you're gonna be all right. Gentry, go down, move the car around to the alley, then come back here and give me a hand. We'll take her down the back stairs.
You sure you don't want me to take her to a hospital and get her stomach pumped or something? At least get a doctor?
No doctors. Too many questions. We'll get her back to Indianapolis, and we'll decide what to do on the way.
I just want to die. Can't you just leave me alone and let me die?
You're not gonna die. I won't let you. You know me, baby. I can fix anything. Anything.
Mr. Stephenson?
I told you I didn't want to be interrupted.
I'm sorry, sir, but a Mr. Asa Smith is out here. He says he's an attorney. He insists he has to see you immediately.
What about?
He only says the matter is personal and confidential.
Okay. Tell him I can give him 3 minutes.
And Mr. Stephenson, that reporter Niblack is with him.
Mr. Stephenson, I'm Asa Smith.
I know you. Republican lawyer. Not one of ours, though.
Not one of yours. No, sir.
Hello, Niblack.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Dragon.
Ever the smart aleck. Have a seat, but don't get too comfortable. The meter's running. What's this about?
You know Miss Madge Oberholzer.
Taken her out a few times?
More than a few times, according to my sources. I had a very disturbing phone call from Miss Oberholzer's father. He knew my byline from the Times and asked me to help find an attorney, one without any Klan affiliations.
Your 3 minutes are almost up.
Mr. Oberholzer told me Madge left their house at 10 p.m. on March 15th in response to a call from you. He became very concerned when Madge did not return that night, or the next day, or the night after that.
A woman's an adult? Hell, she's pushing 30. Surely she can stay out overnight without her father's permission.
About noon on the 17th, a man arrived at the Oberholzers carrying Madge. She was all battered and bruised from head to toe. There were even open wounds. The man claimed Madge had been in an automobile accident. Hearing that, I put Mr. Oberholzer in touch with Mr. Smith.
If Miss Oberholzer was in an automobile accident, I don't see how I'm involved.
Come now, Mr. Stephenson. We've spoken with Miss Oberholzer. You raped this girl, you beat her, you bit chunks out of her flesh, then you kept her captive and refused to obtain medical help.
Never happened. She must be delusional.
If she recovers, she will need to move far away.
Her reputation will be destroyed when words get out about this ungodly episode.
The Oberholzers are not in a position to provide what their daughter needs. You, on the other hand, are well able to do right by her.
So, it's money you're after. Might have known.
We suggest $10,000 would be a fair settlement.
Out of friendship for the girl, I might consider $5,000.
$10,000. This isn't an auction, Mr. Stephenson. Of course, Madge's parents want no publicity and no lawsuits. She suffered enough. And I have no doubt you would like to avoid publicity and gossip as well.
I suppose you have a juicy story already written saying I abuse women? A story you'll publish if I don't cooperate?
Something like that.
Look, you two. I'm warning you. I've been blackmailed by experts. Amateurs like you can't get away with it. Why should I pay anything? It's her word against mine.
Oh, I suspect we can find support for her story. Your face is not unknown in the state despite your habit of donning masks in public.
You'll never touch me. I have friends in high places, very high places indeed.
I've interviewed a lot of your so-called friends. Off the record, of course. I think you'd be surprised how eager some of them might be to get out from under your thumb.
They wouldn't dare double-cross me. But hang on a minute. You said if she recovers.
According to her doctor, she is very weak. If any of her wounds become infective, she will most likely not survive. In that case, Mr. Stephenson, no amount of money or influence will protect you.
You're bluffing. If she dies, you have no case. She couldn't testify against me from the grave.
I understand you brag you're the law in Indiana, but apparently you have no idea what miracles may be possible in an Indiana courtroom.
Mr. Stephenson, there's a telephone call from Mr. Smith's office. They say they have an urgent message for him.
He can take it in here. We are about finished with our business.
This is Asa Smith. Thank you. Stephenson, it looks like we've wasted our time. Miss Oberholzer has taken a turn for the worst, and her doctor says her recovery is impossible. Her father is ordering me to see you are persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The real law in Indiana, Mr. Stephenson. Good day to you. We'll see you in court.
And in the newspapers, of course. Can't wait to see how your fiery cross tries to explain this. So what now?
Now we arrange for Madge Oberholzer to testify against Stephenson from beyond the pearly gates. It's something called a dying declaration. The state of Indiana presumes a person facing death will not lie. No one wants a falsehood on their tongue when they go to meet their maker.
That sounds like something an Indiana lawyer would dream up. Would that theory hold up in the case of an atheist with no maker to meet?
I don't know. It's never been tested, but in this case, there's no question. Madge is a good church-going girl. I made detailed notes of everything she told us. 9 typewritten pages. Now we have to read every word to her so she can swear that her accusations are the truth.
You intend to put a girl on her deathbed through an ordeal with Stephenson again?
I wish there were some other way, but we have to follow the legal procedures to the letter. Madge, your doctor tells me you understand you cannot get well. Is that true? In making a statement of this kind, it's necessary to realize that you are soon going to die.
I welcome death. I can't go on living in this misery.
I'm afraid I must read this entire statement to you very slowly and carefully. You must hear all of it and then say whether or not what I read to you is true.
I already told you what happened. You too, Mr. Niblack, over and over.
The law requires we do this. Otherwise, Stephenson will most probably never be punished for what he did to you.
Then go ahead. Do whatever you have to.
You're a brave girl. The document starts. My name is Madge Oberholzer. I stand on the brink of death, and this is my dying declaration. I first met D.C. Stephenson at the banquet given for the governor at the athletic club in early January 1925. After the banquet, he asked me for a date several times.
Times, Indianapolis Times, shocking news. Grand Dragon arrested. Stephenson accused of murdering young state employee. Times, get your times here. Shocking news. Grand Dragon arrested.
Where the hell are we? There's 2 signs on the door. One says press room, the other says men's room.
If you're looking for the sign that says women's room, it's across the hall.
I decline. Chicago Times. I'll be sending dispatches to papers coast to coast.
John Niblack, Indianapolis Times. Well, this is awkward. Courthouse isn't exactly set up for reporters covering a big trial, so they ran extra phone lines into the men's room and provided these elegant accommodations. Obviously, they weren't expecting any female reporters to show up.
Well, I can stand it if you can. When you're a working girl, pretty much every room is a men's room.
Yeah. So,
what's the jury like? They hadn't finished seating it when I left Chicago.
about what you'd expect in this neck of the woods. Manager of the local gas company, truck driver, 10 farmers, all white, of course.
Sounds like a roster of Klansmen. No women?
They never have any women on juries in Hamilton County. There's only one toilet in the jury room, and they don't clean it very often.
And they're afraid it'll offend women's delicate little noses. Apparently, these men have never changed a baby's diapers. This state's even more behind the times than I thought.
Well, here in Indiana, we are very protective of our women folk.
So, who was protecting Madge Oberholzer?
Well, Stephenson was supposed to be. That's what the trial's really about. No, sure, they'll talk about murder, but what they might actually convict him of is violating the social contract. Women are subservient to men, and in return, men protect and defend their women.
Yeah, I've heard it all before. Now, knowing that I was about to leave civilization and venture into deepest, darkest Indiana, I supplied myself with several pints of Mr. Al Capone's favorite beverage, Templeton Rye Whiskey, the best that Iowa has to offer.
You and Mr. Capone are drinking buddies, are you?
Let's just say I'm familiar with his tastes. He loves publicity, and he especially loves lady reporters.
It's a little early. I just had breakfast.
Oh, come on. You can't let me drink alone. What do they teach you in journalism school anyway? Oh, damn. I'm out of cigarettes. You wouldn't happen to have one, would you?
Sorry, I don't smoke.
Of course you don't. Oh. What are you looking at me like that for? Like I'm some kind of sideshow freak.
No, women who cuss and smoke cigarettes and drink whiskey, especially in the presence of a man they just met, are a pretty rare species down here in the deepest, darkest Indiana.
Well, you better get used to it, Buster. It's the 20th century. Women are tired of men having all the fun. So what do you think? Does Stephenson walk, or does he get the electric chair? My bookie in Chicago is taking odds on a hung jury. Get it? Klan trial, hung jury? No?
No.
Oh.
And Miss Klein, with all due respect to Mr. Capone, this whiskey's about as bad as your attempt at humor. For medicinal use only?
Best I could get considering our nation's prohibitive laws.
If I were a betting man...
And you're not.
I'd bet the jury will split the difference. They can't overlook what happened to Madge, so the only way he'll walk free is if his good friend, the governor, pardons him. He'll only get the chair if he's convicted on first-degree murder, but the state would have to prove he intended to kill her and took satisfaction from her suffering. Pretty high bar to get over. So my money would be on a conviction of murder in the second degree if the prosecution can prove she died as a result of Stephenson committing a separate felony.
Such as rape or assault.
In that case, the sentence would be life in prison. But he'd get on parole eventually. Either way, we won't know till we see how the jury decides, if they decide.
Well, I stand to make a few bucks if they don't. Now, fill me in about the lawyers.
Chief prosecutor is Will Remy, appointed by Governor Jackson's predecessor. It's his first big case. Defense attorney, on the other hand, has been around a long time. Ol F. Inman made a fortune convincing Indiana juries his guilty clients are innocent as newborn babes. Very expensive. He's costing Stephenson a fortune.
You know, there's a couple things bothering me. If Stephenson wanted to rape the Oberholzer chick, why get on a train to do it? I can't imagine she'd have been the first young lady ravaged at his mansion.
Well, he also kept a hotel suite downtown. Could have done the deed there. Hotel detective would have looked the other way.
Well, if you don't mind hearing from a city girl, I might be able to suggest a theory.
Sure, go ahead.
Suppose, just suppose, Miss Oberholzer was pregnant and told Stephenson he was the father.
There was an autopsy. The doctor didn't say anything about her being pregnant.
Maybe it was a false pregnancy. Maybe her monthly female complaint was overdue. What if she lied to force him to marry her? One of my old school chums landed herself a rich husband that way.
None of that's been suggested by anyone.
But it fits. Stephenson gets mad as hell. Pardon my French. He gets enraged when he figures out this girl was trying to bamboozle him. So he lures her to his house. They have a few drinks, prohibition or no prohibition.
And probably not the rot gut from Iowa. Stephenson has a finer taste.
Well, then once she's good and drunk, he gets her on that midnight train to Chicago.
Except they got off the train in Hammond. Assumption is he sobered up and realized if they crossed into Illinois, they'd get him for transporting a woman across state lines for immoral purposes.
My guess is he never meant to take her all the way to Chicago. I think he meant to take her to Gary. If you're riding the Monon Railroad, Hammond's the closest stop.
Gary?
Do you know why many young women, at least young women from Chicago, occasionally travel to Gary?
For the fresh air and pristine Lake Michigan beaches?
They go to Gary because in that lovely town of smoke and soot there reside a couple of very accommodating lady doctors well known in certain circles. Specialize in female problems.
Abortion doctors?
And what is one of the compounds such doctors give their patients to induce, shall we say, a miscarriage? Oh, come on. Even in Indianapolis, you can't be that naive.
Mercury bichloride.
Mercury bichloride. The very thing the girl took to try and end her life. But, as I say, it's only a theory.
It's too bad I can't float it in a family newspaper. Our readers prefer to imagine Madge Overholzer as an immaculate virgin 10 years younger than she really was. Despoiled by Lucifer himself.
Good melodrama always sells papers. I need to see if I can get a statement from the judge before court convenes.
Oh, good luck with that. He's a close-mouthed old cuss.
Oh, Your Honor, this is my first big story. I just have to impress my editors. It would be ever so helpful if I could just have a quote or two from a distinguished jurist such as yourself. Works every time.
I assume such a ploy would be beneath your contempt.
Not if the ploy gets me a good scoop.
A word to the wise, then. The judge is a teetotaler. You might want to do something about the smell of Iowa on your breath. Dateline. Noblesville, Indiana, October 29th, 1925. Byline John Niblack, Indianapolis Times, political reporter. After months of hearings in front of 3 different judges in 2 different counties and following 2 weeks of trying to find 12 jurors, the stage is finally set for the trial of accused murderer and former Klan Grand Dragon D.C. Stephenson. Though all the defendant has steadfastly maintained his innocence, he insists he was framed by his political enemies. Mr. Remy!
Mr. Niblack, why aren't you lurking outside with the rest of the news hounds?
The courthouse has 4 entrances to cover, but there's only 1 door into the courtroom. You were bound to come through it sooner or later.
Make it quick. The judge will be here any moment.
Are you concerned there may be Klansmen on the jury?
As I understand it, the Klan believes in defending pure womanhood. That's precisely the sort of juryman we want.
You heard Mr. Stephenson had his own private Klan visitation in his cell last night? Some guy came and threatened to kill him if he testified?
How did you find that out?
It turns out the jail's an old building with lots of leaks.
Off the record, I've spoken to Stephenson's attorney and agreed to avoid asking questions about Klan activities. They're irrelevant to his actions on that train. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Mr. Inman, may I ask you a question?
Not now, Niblack. I have to speak with my client before the court convenes.
You talked to Remy about my visitor last night?
I did. He agreed not to ask any sensitive Klan questions.
Then we're home free. The jury will never find me guilty of murder, and even if they did, the governor will pardon me before I set 1 foot in state prison. Frankly, I'm surprised he hasn't done it already.
All rise. Oh yes, the circuit court for the county of Hamilton is now open and sitting in the matter of the state of Indiana versus David Curtis Stephenson. Judge William Sparks presiding. God save the state of Indiana and this honorable court. You may be seated.
Dateline, Noblesville, Indiana, October 29th, 1925. Lawyers for both sides present opening arguments in Stephenson trial. There may be no ladies on the jury, but the gallery is full of them. They come day after day to support Madge's memory. Church ladies, sorority sisters, women she worked with, her best girlfriends, her weeping mother. A less self-confident man than Stephenson might have wilted under their unrelenting glares of hatred and disgust. And Madge Oberholzer herself is there in the courtroom, always hovering, always present, if only in spirit.
Gentlemen of the jury, this is a case of murder. The state's main witness will be the victim herself, Miss Madge Oberholzer. From beneath the shadowy wings of the dark angel of death, she will tell you how she was kidnapped, assaulted, beaten, and lacerated with beastly fangs.
I, Madge Oberholzer, being in full possession of my mental faculties and conscious that I am about to die, make this my dying declaration.
After enduring Stephenson's vicious brutalities, despairing the loss of all a good woman holds dear, she took deadly poison. But there can be no doubt, it was Stephenson's savagery that brought on the devastating infections that took her life.
Gentlemen of the jury, this is not a case of murder. Madge Oberholzer died because she willingly took poison. Well, you may say that in that case, Mr. Stephenson might be considered an accomplice for her suicide. But suicide is not a crime. In Indiana, no crime, no accomplice, no conviction.
Dateline, Noblesville, Indiana, November 14th, 1925. Background notes. 2 weeks into Stephenson's trial, and over 50 witnesses have testified. Ticket agents, Pullman porters, desk clerks, and hotel maids corroborate the facts in Madge Oberholzer's dying declaration. The defense counters with a lineup of Stephenson's cronies who provide their boss with well-rehearsed alibis. Prosecution doctors are certain Madge died of the infection from Stephenson's bite. Defense doctors swear she died of self-administered poisoning. Through it all, the readers following the trial and newspapers across the nation keenly await the only witness they care about. The show's headliner, Stephenson himself. Finally, he takes the spotlight.
All right, Mr. Stephenson, why don't you tell the court what happened that night Madge Oberholzer came to your home?
At about 10 p.m., Mr. Stephenson sent his associate, Mr. Gentry, to pick me up at my parents' house and walk me the 2 or 3 blocks to Stephenson's mansion.
When she came in, she was very upset. She said she was in trouble, pleaded with me to help her leave town for a day or two to take care of things. To tell the truth, I wasn't surprised. I knew what kind of girl she was.
Objection. The defendant should refrain from commenting on the deceased's character.
Okay, I get it.
Stephenson and Gentry forced me to drink something I didn't recognize. It made me very ill and dazed.
She and I had seen each other socially, and I hated that she was so distressed. I loaned her a car and driver and said she could go wherever she needed to go.
Stephenson and Gentry put me in an automobile and drove to Union Station. I begged them to let me out of the car, but they refused.
And you did not accompany Miss Oberholzer on her errand?
No. I stayed home all weekend doing some paperwork and playing cards with my associates.
Stephenson took me aboard a train and immediately into a private compartment. He pushed me into a berth and attacked me. I tried to fight, but the drink had made me weak and unsteady. He was too strong. He bit me all over my body, my face, my back, my legs, my ankles.
My driver said she had him take her to an address up in Gary, where she stayed for 2 or 3 hours.
When the train stopped in Hammond, he took me to a hotel, holding a gun to my ribs to keep me quiet. After a time, Mr. Gentry brought the car up from Indianapolis. I obtained a bottle of bichloride of mercury tablets. I took some and became very ill and delirious.
The driver said when she came out of the Gary location that she didn't look well at all.
When Mr. Stephenson saw what I had done, he and Mr. Gentry pushed me into a car and drove me back to Indianapolis.
On their way back to Indianapolis, she suddenly screamed for the driver to stop the car. She was going to be sick. When he slammed on the brakes, the back door suddenly sprang open and Miss Oberholzer fell out into the brush and gravel on the side of the road. She ended up all bruised and bloody, and she'd thrown up all over herself.
What happened when Miss Oberholzer returned to your house?
I was shocked at her condition. I had her rest for several hours and taken home.
Mr. Stephenson, did you do anything to Miss Oberholzer that might have caused her death?
I never touched the girl. Never.
He chewed my breasts until they bled.
No further questions, Mr. Remy or witness.
That was quite a tale you just spun, Mr. Stephenson. Who did you say drove Miss Oberholzer?
I didn't, but it was my associate, Earl Gentry.
Is Mr. Gentry available to corroborate your story?
I'm afraid I don't know of his whereabouts. He quit the day after he brought Miss Oberholzer home.
Some might say that's very convenient. At the beginning of this trial, you pled not guilty. Do you still maintain your innocence in the face of Madge Oberholzer's dying declaration?
I do. There isn't a word of truth in it.
Why do you think Miss Oberholzer would lie?
She was a vindictive little... she wanted to get back at me because I refused to marry her. She asked me several times, begged me, in fact, and I said no every time. As I said, I heard things about her, things that led me to believe that she would not be a suitable wife for a man of my standing in the community.
We've heard witnesses who placed you on the train and in the hotel, just as Miss Oberholzer described.
Two of those so-called witnesses were a colored Pullman porter and a Dago chambermaid. No one would take their word against a respectable white man.
Perhaps not a respectable white man, no.
You saying that I'm not respectable?
Respectable men do not go around raping young women.
Well, I never did, that's for sure. I can't speak for other respectable white men.
I thought that's exactly what you did for a living, Mr. Stephenson. Speak for respectable white men. And before we go any further, let me assure you, I will not be asking you any questions about your Ku Klux Klan connections. I understand you have some concern they might murder you if you talk about them too much.
Where'd you hear that? The Klan are my brothers. I have nothing to fear from them.
If you say so. I know I would be afraid if someone threatened to kill me.
Well, Mr. Remy, I'm no coward.
You're afraid the world will find out what a beast you are.
Aren't you a coward, Mr. Stephenson? Your Ku Klux Klan mask isn't the only mask you hide behind, is it? Aren't you the sort of cowardly little man who hides his weakness behind a curtain of bluster and blackmail and bullying?
Objection!
That kind of coward who only feels powerful when he brutally rapes and beats up a woman and then discards her like so much trash?
Biting her like some rabid animal.
That's who you are, Mr. Stephenson. Isn't that who you are? Nothing but a sadistic rapist and killer?
Objection!
I didn't kill her! It wasn't my fault! She was responsible! It was all her! It wasn't my fault!
Dateline. Noblesville, Indiana, closing arguments. Conclude Marathon Stephenson trial.
Gentlemen of the jury, if this man, this degenerate, can kidnap a young lady and defile her and bite her and then deny her medical help, how can he not be found guilty of taking her life? Mr. Stephenson boasts he's the law and the power in Indiana. Yet, I know you men are brave enough not to set him free to commit further outrages against the young women of this state. No, you will not set him free. I know it because I know what's in the hearts of the 12 good men sitting before me.
Gentlemen of the jury, of her own free will, Madge Oberholzer purchased and took the pills that ultimately ended her life. No one forced her to do so. One wonders, where did she learn about the effects of mercury bichloride? Sometimes even girls in our best families do things that are wrong. Mr. Stephenson sits before you accused of a crime he did not commit and in peril of the electric chair. Why? Only because powerful persons lurking in the shadows find his continued existence inconvenient to their ambitions. Gentlemen, I urge you to uphold true 100% American principles. This man is innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. And there is plenty of doubt in this case.
Dateline, Noblesville, Indiana, November 14th, 1925. Jurors to begin deliberations after recess for lunch. Courthouse regulars agreed jurors could take weeks to reach a verdict.
It's taking the jury so long. They've been in there for almost 5 hours already.
Steve, I told you, they could take days just going through all the testimony.
Why? All they need to do is vote to acquit me and then come in here and say so. But just in case, where's my pardon? I told you to tell Jackson I wanted him to issue it before the jury hands down their verdict. What'd he say when you talked to him?
I didn't get to speak to the governor directly. I got a hold of one of his aides, and he said Jackson had important things all afternoon and wasn't available.
Important meetings! What is the most important thing on his plate? This is the most important thing on his plate, and he knows it.
Probably just keeping up appearances. The aide said the governor was very aware of what you expect of him.
What he better be aware of is I can take him down anytime I want to. What happened to your agreement with Remy? You said you wouldn't. You said he wouldn't bring up any Klan stuff.
What he said was he wouldn't ask you any Klan questions. Technically, he didn't. He just mentioned the Klan offhanded, and you fell right into his trap.
So technically, he outsmarted you.
Looks like the jury's coming back already.
See, what I tell you, F. They're just stalling long enough to justify having lunch at the county's expense.
On the charge of murder in the first degree, we, the jury, find the defendant, David Curtis Stephenson, not guilty. On the charge of murder in the second degree, we, the jury, find the defendant, David Curtis Stephenson, guilty. We recommend he be incarcerated in the Indiana State Penitentiary for life.
They can't do this to me. This farce was set up from the beginning to the end. It's nothing but a goddamn travesty. Get Jackson on the phone. I want to talk to the governor now.
Prisoner number 11148, you have a visitor.
So, instead of calling you Mr. Dragon, I should make it Mr. 11148.
Hello, John. Glad you could make it. By this time, you could be calling me Steve, don't you think?
Better men than I discovered getting that close to you can be dangerous. Speaking of which, Governor Jackson still refuses to issue you a pardon. He tries to give the impression he hardly even knew you.
What a disappointment that weasel turned out to be. I hear they're writing him up in the scientific journals. Wonder of our time. A man his age suddenly growing a spine and a complete set of balls. They won't do him no good, much good at this late date. That's strictly off the record, of course.
Didn't even bother to bring my notebook. Frankly, I was surprised to get your invitation to visit. Thought the warden was pretty strict about how much contact you have with the outside world.
Oh, I have my own system for smuggling out letters. Friendly guards on the inside, a nice lady on the outside who thinks she's in love with me. Very helpful. I promise to marry her when I get out. And I will get out. You can count on it. I was just typing up my appeal to the state Supreme Court.
Those friendly guards wouldn't be Klansmen by any chance? Or maybe ex-Klansmen? I understand membership is plummeting since your conviction. A lot of folks seem to be hiding their robes in the attic and pretending they were never members.
Temporary setback, that's all. Fear of foreigners, white supremacy, religious bigotry, they've been around forever and they will never go out of style. They always come back. Bigger, better than ever. And there's always somebody around who's ready to exploit the opportunities.
And is that what you were doing? Exploiting opportunities?
Of course. Conditions were ripe for a guy like me. The Protestants were afraid of the Catholics, the natives were afraid of the immigrants, the politicians were willing to be corrupted, and the women were just plain willing. Most of them, anyway.
I'm curious. Now that you've had time to think about it,
Nothing but time.
do you think you got what you deserved?
I never killed Madge Oberholzer. Oh, I may have played a little rough with the girl, but she took the poison and got the infection all on her own. She wasn't any different from all of the other women who lined up at my door. They knew what was expected of them, and if some of them suddenly decided not to cooperate, they deserved what happened to them. No. That purple-robed molar yanker in Atlanta wanted me gone, so he trumped up a murder charge. I'm told he laid out $100,000 for my conviction. No doubt he considers it money well spent.
So, still, none of this is your fault.
You know what is my fault? I trusted people to play by the rules. And what did it get me? Politicians that I bought fair and square suddenly get religion. But I'll get my revenge. Because I'm very grateful to the Indianapolis Times. I've arranged for you to receive 2 black boxes.
They really exist. I thought it was part of the Stephenson legend.
Ooh, they exist all right. Inside of them, you'll find a number of very interesting documents. One proves our old friend, Governor Jackson, attempted to bribe his predecessor. You'll also find leads enough to take down a whole bunch of mayors, city councilmen, and legislators.
What do you mean you're grateful to the Times?
We thrived on your attacks. Every time you editorialized about how the Klan was a terrible organization because we were against Catholics, Jews, and Negroes, our membership rolls swelled and I got richer. Every time you ran a story about how powerful I was, more politicians decided they'd better jump on the bandwagon. I couldn't have done half of what I did without your help. I'm in your debt. It's payback time. Once the Times runs its exposés, hand over the boxes to Remy. I'll tell him I'll testify at any time, any place. I'll teach those sons of bitches to cross D.C. Stephenson. They can shut me away, but they can't shut me up.
Well, thanks, I guess.
Don't mention it. I hear they're talking up the Times for a Pulitzer Prize on your Klan coverage. Oh, this stuff will clinch it. When you make your acceptance speech, just give me a little credit.
We've always given you the credit you're due, Mr. Grand Dragon.
I told you once that I had plans to become the most important man in the United States. Do you know why that didn't happen?
Because you killed Madge Oberholzer.
Nah. It's because the whole system's rigged. Or else, who knows? Maybe the country just wasn't ready for me yet. Yeah. That's it. That's what it was. I was just ahead of my time.